Good day everyone. Our topic for today is about Philippine history, spaces for conflict and controversies. Making sense of the past historical interpretation. First, what is historical interpretation? Historical interpretation is the process by which we describe, analyze, evaluate, and create an explanation of past events. Geoffrey Barackloff defines history as the attempt to discover on the basis of fragmentary evidence the significant things about the past. Ito yung pagtangka nating matuklasan ang isang pangyayari na syempre kailangan may patunay or evidence tayo na yun nga talaga yung yun nga talaga yung tunay na naganap o nangyari. Kasi ang mga historian, hindi lang naman yung kasaysayan ang inaalam, kundi pati ang katotohanan. He also notes the history we read, though based on facts, is strictly speaking not factual at all but a series of accepted judgments. Historians utilize facts collected from primary sources of history and draw their own reading so that their intended audience may understand the historical event, a process that is essence makes sense of the past. So, how do historians interpret the past? Historians use facts gathered from primary sources of evidence. Some example of primary sources is documents, audio and video recordings, letters or diaries, newspapers, magazine or image. So they gathered from primary sources and then shaped them so that their audience can understand and make sense of them. 'Di ba sa atin kasi pag nakaraan na yan tapos na ayaw na nating balikan, pag-usapan o kalkalin pa. Sabi dito, make sense of the past. May katuturan ang nakaraan, pwede tayong may matutunan dito. Multi-perspectivity. Multi-perspectivity can be defined as a way of looking at historical events, personalities, development, and societies from different perspectives. For example, sa isang damit na yon, madaming tao ang tumitingin. Yung ibang tao ang tinitignan ay kung ano yung design, at yung iba naman ay kung gaano kaganda yung tela, at yung iba naman ay yung kulay, at yung iba ay kung anong size yung damit na yon. May iba't iba tayong perspective sa pagtingin ng isang bagay o tao. We are looking for same thing or person but in different perspective. Historical writing is by definition biased, partial, and contains preconception. For example po, sa online, may nakita tayong nagbebenta ng sapatos. Tapos sabi doon, yung sapatos na yon ay matibay, maganda, na okay yung quality, na masasatisfy tayo doon sa product na yon, na hindi masasayang yung pera na pambibili natin. At syempre minsan kasi naaakit or nadadala tayo sa mga ganon. So tapos pagdating sa atin, syempre mapapasabi na lang tayo na reality versus expectation. Minsan po kasi yung mga yun binabayaran lang or advertisement. Kasi ba't niya sinabi na good quality kahit hindi naman kasi nabayaran? Kaya ito yung tinatawag na bias, partial, and contains preconception. So parang ganun din po yung historical writing. The historian decided on what sources to use, what interpretation to make more apparent depending on what his end is. Meron po kasing historian na pinipili lang yung mga sources na gagamitin. For example, yung kaibigan mo na nagkwento na sinaktan siya ng boyfriend niya. So, hindi porket kaibigan mo siya, siya lang yung papakinggan mo. Dapat hindi lang kwento ng sinaktan ang pinapakinggan mo, dapat pati na din yung kwento ng isa pa para malaman natin kung ano ba talaga yung dahilan kung bakit sinaktan yung kaibigan mo at para malaman natin kung ano ba talaga yung tunay at saktong nangyari. Advantage of multiperspectivity. It brings a more complex, complete, and richer understanding of the past. It can be used to show corroboration of acts, to show diverse perspectives of a single event, and to showcase the human condition in compelling ways. Case study number 1. Where did the first Catholic Mass take place? The Philippines. Butuan has long been believed as the site of the first Mass. In fact, this has been the case for 3 centuries, culminating in the erection of a monument in 1872 near Agusan River, which commemorates the expedition's arrival and celebration of Mass on April 8, 1521. The Butuan claim has been based on a rather elementary reading of primary sources from the event. Yun nga po, walang kasiguruduhan yung kung sa Butuan nga talaga ginanap yung unang Mass dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi yung evidence nila na nagsasabi na sa Butuan nga talaga naganap ay nabasa nila sa book ng elementary, which is hindi sapat na patunay na Butuan nga talaga naganap yung first Mass. Sa pagdami ng mga historian, binalikan nila tong event na to, so parang nag-investigate sila ganun. So the historians and government widely believe that the first Mass held in Limisawa at the tip of southern Leyte. Spanish accounts of the Cavite Community. The documentation of Spanish historian Jose Montero Vidal centered on how the event was an attempt in overthrowing the Spanish government in the Philippines. Although regarded as a historian, his account of the community was criticized as woefully biased and rabid for a scholar. So si Vidal ay kilalang historian, pero yung pagkakasalaysay niya sa tinatawag na community sa Cavite ay kumbaga hindi patas. Siyempre isa siyang Espanyol, of course, he is on the side of the Spanish. The Cavite Mutiny of 1872 was an uprising of Filipino military personnel of Fort San Felipe, the Spanish arsenal in Cavite, Philippine Islands on January 20, 1872. Around 200 locally recruited colonial troops and laborers rose up in the belief that it would elevate to a national uprising. The mutiny was unsuccessful and government soldiers executed many of the participants and began to crack down on the burgeoning Philippines nationalist movement. Many scholars believe that the Cavite Mutiny of 1872 was the beginning of the Filipino nationalism that would eventually lead to the Philippine Revolution of 1896. Case study number 3. Did Rizal retract? It is understandable that any piece of writing from Rizal that recounts everything he wrote against their friars and the Catholic Church in the Philippines could deal heavy damage to his image as a prominent Filipino revolutionary. Such documents purportedly exists, allegedly signed by Rizal a few hours before his execution. This document, referred to as the Retraction, declares Rizal's belief in the Catholic faith and retracts everything he wrote against the church. So, So ayon sa ilan, si Jose Rizal na pinaslang ng mga kolonyalistang Espanyol 120 years ago, December 30, 1896, ay naging bayani dahil sa kanyang mga sinulat upang wasakin ang idea ng kolonyalismo. Ilang oras bago siya barilin, pinirmahan walang kasiguraduhan kung pinirmahan ba talaga ni Jose Rizal ang isang dokumento na nagsasabing siya raw ay isang Katoliko at binabawi niya lahat ang kanyang mga sinulat laban sa simbahan. Nakilala ang dokumento bilang ang Retraction. The Balaguer Testimony. Kahit natagpuan na ang sinasabing dokumento ng retraktasyon noong 1935, patuloy pa din ang pagdududa, lalo na sa tinuturing na natatanging eyewitness account ng pangyayari ang sinulat ng Jesuitang si Padre Vicente Balaguer. According to his testimony, Rizal woke up several times, confessed 4 times, attended a mass, received communions, and prayed the rosary, all of which seemed out of character. Case study number 4. Where did the Cry Rebellion happen? First, what is Cry of Rebellion? Cry of Rebellion marks the start of the revolutionary events that swept the Spanish colonies in the late 19th century. In the Philippines, the Cry of Rebellion happened in August 1896, northeast of Manila, where they declared rebellions against the Spanish colonial government. The events are important markers in the history of colonies that struggled for their independence against their colonizers. So, yun lang po. Thank you.